Introduce to you our speaker, Jay Fizzett. Jay Fizzett, I don't have your bio in front of me, so I'm just going to wing it, buddy. Yeah. So I met Jay Fizzett officially the first time. When was your JVology in Calgary? September. So I met him in September, and I was blown away by the concepts and the information he was talking about. It was a group of probably 70, 80 people in a room talking about the science of joint venturing. It was inspirational. It was phenomenal. And it really got me thinking about, as opposed to just looking for my end clients on LinkedIn, what about also attracting a referral army to joint venture with me, where I can send them information and stuff, and they can send me information and stuff. That's how Rochelle and I got together for this workshop. And it was amazing. So quiet down, pay close attention, take notes, and let's all put our hands together and welcome Jay Fizzett.
Now, I can be a little bit loud here. How are we doing? Testing. Oh, yes. I'm a part of the tech team. I forgot. There's a very strategic thing I'm doing, which apparently should help. Yeah, just turn the thing on. Testing. There we go. Okay. We can probably turn that down a little bit. Okay. First and foremost, how are you all? Brains working a little better after a little bit of food? Yes? This is going to be taxing for me, I can tell. But we will figure it out. Okay. Entrepreneurs in the room, raise your hand. Okay. Those of you who are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur and you have not made the leap yet, raise your hands. Okay, a few of you. How many of you think entrepreneurs are batshit crazy and you are keeping your job? A little bit of both? Yes. And I'll just take that one step further. How many of you can honestly acknowledge that when you left your job to become an entrepreneur, you realize in retrospect that what you did in fact was leave an asshole boss for an insane one? Okay, well, as long as we're telling ourselves the truth, all is well. So I love this quote: entrepreneurs are willing to work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week for somebody else. Raise your hand, true or not true? Yes, of course it is. Okay, now, there's good news and bad news to that process, without a doubt. But I want to start with what I sometimes call the motivational portion of the presentation. And you might not be able to see this particularly well, but these are stats for full and part-time businesses. And here's what it boils down to is this. 22% of businesses under $10,000. And if we round all the way up to here, we're just going to use the $100,000 range. Basically, 2/3 of all businesses are struggling under $100,000 a year. Now, no, that's sales, for crying out loud. That is sales. Okay? So then you still got to pay people, you still got to feed, you still got to do all of the stuff. Now, I want to be very clear about this. Starbucks managers make about that amount of money pouring coffee for 38 hours a week. So this whole thing about entrepreneurship that is so well celebrated on other platforms like Facebook, it's like you too can have a laptop and send 3 emails and make $12 million while you're frolicking in the sun and the sand having fun, is, let's just say, well, I'm a Saskatchewan farm kid, so I will filter my cursing, and I will just say that it is optimistic marketing. That's about as kind as I can put that. There are other words that if you buy me a glass of wine, I will fill in. How many of you recognize that a bunch of that stuff is optimistic marketing? Yes. Okay, so here's the thing. 2/3 of the entrepreneurs under $100,000. Let's take the wheel a little bit further. Basically, only 7% of businesses are making more than $1 million a year. That's brutal. It's brutal. And by the way, without rattling the chain too badly, Forbes has been publishing a whole bunch of articles about the depression rate of entrepreneurs. There's the success rate, by the way, with all of the tools that we have. And I'm sorry, what was your name? You were talking about the targeting. Dave. Thank you. Hey, Dave. I'm trying to plug you, Dave, over here. What Dave was saying earlier was that this idea of being able to reach people when they're looking for something, when they're actually in that geographic location, Like, let's be clear about this. Not long ago, that process didn't exist. And just half of that data, big companies used to pay Nielsen millions of dollars for. And we get it for, how much does it cost again? Free. We get it for free. And yet, in the light of that, entrepreneurs are failing faster and at higher rates than ever before in the history of entrepreneurship. So my question to you is, what the hell is going on? Thoughts? By the way, that is the end of the motivational portion of the presentation. But seriously, from your perspective, you're living this, at least 2/3 of the room is living this. What's going on?
No direction.
No direction?
And misinformation.
And misinformation?
Not enough cash.
Not enough cash. Raise your hand if there's not enough cash.
There's never enough cash.
If I have 2 boys and they play hockey, so yes. What? Yes, please. People are overwhelmed, absolutely.
They focus on admin instead of
Focus on admin. There is endless administrivia to do that doesn't necessarily ring the cash register.
Focus on the wrong things at the wrong time.
Yeah, well, yes. Sometimes it's the right thing at the wrong time. Sometimes the wrong thing at the wrong time. Sometimes it's the right thing at the right time, buying it from the wrong person, right? Like, there's all sorts of variations on that. I saw one more hand. Please.
No accountability.
No accountability, right? We're out there flailing around on our own, hoping that something is going to work out. Okay.
I say change, also rapid change.
Oh, well, and let's be clear about this. We are in a spot of super change that is going to have radical, far-reaching impacts for all of us in the room, and we don't even know what the hell they are yet. But we're in the midst of working on basically an artificial intelligence matching platform, which I'll tell you more about in a moment or two. But what I can tell you is this: most of our lives, our businesses, and our day-to-days are going to be radically and dramatically transformed in the next 5 to 7 years in ways we cannot yet comprehend. But the truth of the matter is that you guys are at least engaging in one of the most powerful tools under the sun, which is LinkedIn. So anyway, here's my point. I have an agenda, and my agenda is simple and straightforward, which is this. I would really love to help entrepreneurs who are struggling to actually make a real living and have a life with their kids, their family, and their loved ones. And it is not as hard as it seems if we're focusing on the right things in the right order and focus on the exact key things that need to happen, and we're not afraid of technology, which all of you are here working on technology. Does that make sense? Okay, so on that note, here's my belief. The cash piece, I actually don't think it's true. Whether it's cash, whether it's staff, whether it's knowledge or wisdom about LinkedIn, whether it is strategy about the oil companies, whether it is any of those sorts of things, none of us here have a shortage of resources. We tell ourselves we have the shortage of resources. If I had more cash, I would buy LinkedIn ads and I would pixel them and I would get you to run an ad and you'd see my name on every single billboard in Canada. All I need is cash. But I don't believe that's true. What I think is more accurate is this. You don't have a shortage of resources, you actually have a shortage of joint venture partners. Because every single resource that you would like to get your hands on is available to you, please hear this, with the proper joint venture. Every single resource that you would like to have is available to you with the proper joint venture. You want cash? Great, let's do a quick JV and make some money. You want support in terms of how to get your LinkedIn profile up? We could do that through a joint venture. Do you want to learn how to write the best swipe copy in the universe for a digital conversion and a page that actually works? You can get that how?
Joint venture.
Through a joint venture. So I want to put this in perspective because people don't think about it very wisely, in my humble opinion, which is this. So my day rate is $15,000 US. It's a chunk of change. And yet every single one of you in this room could hire me for free. You could have 30 years of experience. You could have my entire team of copywriters, web designers, developers, joint venture partners, all sorts of things. Every single one of you could hire me for free. How?
Joint venture.
Just joint venture with me. I will give you every single resource that I have invested millions of dollars at so that you could go and take those resources and utilize them with your tribe, your community, and your world. For how much again?
Free.
Or you could pay me $15K to build your own. That's fine too. But does that make sense? Most people don't think of it that way. But let's get hustling here. We got a lot of ground to cover. So let's talk quickly about what a joint venture is, and then I'm going to teach you I'm going to teach you one core thing that if it lands, it'll change your world. So all a joint venture is a collaboration of 2 or more people towards a common and joint goal. From our perspective, the joint venture has to benefit 3 parties. We say people, but think of it as parties. Who's the first person that has to benefit? Customer. Always customer first. If the joint venture is not aligned with the customer, it becomes a fiasco on wheels and a management pain in the you-know-what. Okay? Client first. We only do JVs with someone that feeds and fulfills our client's needs. I'll teach you a strategy to vet and filter that in a moment. Who's the next person that has to benefit? Our partner. The joint venture partner. If it isn't worth it to them, they're not going to play again. And then third and finally, ourselves. And by the way, whenever we're structuring a JV deal, it's always in this order. Client, partner, us. Client, partner, us. Client, partner, us. Client, partner, us. Whoever's been in a joint venture that turned into a fiasco on wheels. That, by the way, that's worse than a regular fiasco. You know, fiascos that stay in one place aren't so bad. Fiascos on wheels just go all over the place, raising hell everywhere. So, fiasco on wheels. Raise your hand if you've had one. Oh, I'll just wait. Jesus, Murphy. It's like, oh, there's somebody at my table who had one, but it wasn't me. Yes, I could put both hands and both feet up to this. So here's the thing. When they are fiascos on wheels, it is always because the JV partner had themselves too high on the list. Every single time. There's a component of greed, there's a component of lack of equity, there's a component that doesn't quite play. Does this make sense? Okay, so let's talk about types of JVs real quick. I use the term joint venture as a large umbrella to cover a whole bunch of key points. So I'm just going to distinguish 3 of them. And keep in mind that while I work primarily in the digital realm, this works bricks and mortar. This works in every single industry under the sun. There are no exceptions ever. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to figure it out, but I give you my word I can. Okay? My best one is Sex Shop Science Center. Wicked JV. You got to buy me wine to hear the rest of that story. Okay, going back to this. First and foremost, affiliate marketing. Affiliate marketing is simply where you perhaps bought a piece of software, you bought a particular program, you signed up online, you filled out a form, it spit you out a link that you could then write a blog about, you could put in your email link, you could send an email for, and if somebody buys something, generally speaking, we're talking about not inordinate amounts of money, but you get to go buy a Starbucks on somebody else's nickel, right? Make sense? Now, that said, I literally just had lunch with a gentleman on the Marketers Cruise who does nothing but second-tier affiliate marketing, and he just upgraded to a Tesla, all through that kind of work. So I want you to be clear about this. Most of the time, that takes a hell of a strategy, and most of the time, it's small money, but it can be strong 7 figures. Now, I'm not really a big fan of this, although we do a little bit of it. This is what I prefer. Becoming a joint venture partner and finding joint venture partners. I'm going to use this for the purpose of joint ventures. A joint venture is a project that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and express rewards for everyone involved. Does that make sense? So can I use this as an example? So this event would be a great joint venture project or joint venture partner project. We know that it has a particular date. I said to Alan, I think this is a brilliant idea. I'd be happy to share it with my tribe, and I'd be happy to have you lead one of my courses to actually talk about LinkedIn. So far, so good. We go through the entire promotional process. We fill as many of the seats as we possibly can. At the end of it, we deliver that. At the end of it, if there is any, depending on what the deal is, that could be money that got split, that could be exposure that got split, it could be services that get shared, it could be anything. There's a million ways to cut that, right? But at the end, we say, hey, that worked out pretty well. We should do that again. Does that make sense? Or we say, that was nice. Carry on. There's no long-term obligation to it other than to show up and deliver what we said we were going to in that time frame. Does that make good sense? Yeah. Okay, give me an example of a joint venture project that you have participated in. Good, bad, or otherwise. I want to get a sense of what kind of stuff you guys have done.
I did one with another company who does a lot of other joint ventures with other people, bring me in, and I did a lot of work for them, and I got off the back afterwards.
Okay, so that was one of the fiascos. Yeah. Yes. Other examples, please. Yes, so joint recovery awareness ventures, fabulous. And that's really about raising the awareness of all of the organizations that are involved in the process. Love it. Great example.
I do workshops and book licenses from a friend's location.
Yep.
And I use their boardroom and everything for free.
Yep. Love that. And book launches, are we talking about like Amazon campaign book launches or just getting the book out into the world?
I've got a big book launch tomorrow, and it's just
Okay. And she brought her coach. but both are important, right? One begets the other. Okay. Those are great examples. So here's the thought that I want you to hold as we go through this process, is that every single one of us probably is being too independent. There's a slide coming up here in a moment or two. But if we can get these JVs working, what we're really aiming at is this. And I think this is probably closer to what's going on for the recovery organizations that you were talking about, is that what we're after here is strategic partnerships. Because if we do a JV and it goes really, really well for us, then it only makes sense that says, well, why don't we take this one step further? Why don't we actually build an organization together where my traffic flow feeds your traffic flow, and we formalize this as an agreement? Does anyone here know who or what Thinkific is? Raise your hand if you know Thinkific. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. An amazing Canadian company. It's a SaaS platform, software as a service. They actually host digital courses, content, all of those pieces. By the way, how many of you have a thought about taking some of your intellectual property and putting it into a digital course or program? Just raise your hand. Keep your hand up for a while. Okay. If your hand isn't up, now raise your hand. And I mean that in all seriousness. Every single one of you has expertise that should be bundled, packaged, and delivered in that format. How many of you actually have a book already? Is that book in a digital form? Is that book in a digital course form? Awesome. Yay! So here's the thing. The exact same content, and I'm on a little tangent, and by the way, you'll follow my tangents of tangents in a moment. But if you did the work to create the intellectual property of a book, that book generally sells for what? 15, 20 bucks, exactly. If you take that exact same content, structure it with some videos, with some worksheets, with some workbooks, with a couple of digital classes where you can jump in on Zoom and put all those pieces together, the exact same content that you've put your life force into actually putting into a book, which, by the way, I'm an author, and I'm not. The writing process is painful for me, so you don't have to do as hard as I did. You just hire Rochelle. So if you do that, however, the digital version with the videos and the workbooks and a couple of calls takes the $20 book, and now it's worth $497 bucks, $997 bucks, $1,997. And this is the part that most people miss, for the exact same intellectual property delivered in a different medium. Does that make sense to any of you? Yep. And when the book is done, when the course is done, what should you then do? Joint venture to sell the living you-know-what out of that particular program. So far, so good? So a strategic partnership, let's just leap back to that, would be Thinkific. I am on their premium program with a little bit of training to help people who deliver courses and created courses, whether from books or other pieces, sell their courses. They have tens of thousands of programs that are on there that have never had an eyeball at it. Not one. Because people thought that the process was building the course, not marketing the course. We help people market the course. So they build my content right into their platform. Somebody buys their premium program and it's like, hey, you should learn about JPhysEd and JVology. The perfect mix of people, fun, and profit. They'll drive eyeballs to your course so you have this unique experience of being a digital creator that makes money, as opposed to a digital creator that has digital content. Does that make sense? Every client they have gets exposed to me. That's a strategic partnership. These three things make sense? Yep. Deep breath in, folks. Exhale. I know that you've just eaten and I know that I'm talking fast, but this will make sense in a moment, I promise. You tracking so far? How many of you are already at the spot where it's like, well, I think that I could do this or this or this? Raise your hand if you can see where this might fit for you. Okay? Any of you at the spot, it's like, I don't really think that's going to fit for me because my business is different or my whatever. Raise your hand if you're in that spot. Okay? If you have a business, I'm going to challenge you to really pay attention to the next part. All right. Now, I want to tell you about the strength of joint ventures momentarily. Who here knows what ClickFunnels is? Okay, as we are having this conversation, Funnel Hacking Live is going on in Nashville again. Some about 6,500 people are there. This is me getting my 2 Comma Club Award last year. What's interesting about the 2 Comma Club Award, and by the way, I could go get another one this year, but it's like, I'm not going to go back until I get the 10X Award. Here's what the 2 Comma Club Award is. One funnel that you create that generates over $1 million in sales. This particular funnel has done about $4.4 million so far. Now, here's what's interesting, is I thought it had to be in a year. Turns out it's cumulative, which is kind of funny. But my point to this is, They have 105,000 active users. They have given away 500 of these things. So if you take that into consideration, so it's like 0.5% of people get this shit done. Here's what's interesting. We're lined up like cattle to get this award. And it's like, it takes a while. So, hey, what do you do? Hey, what do you do? Hey, what do you do? And here's what occurs. Every single person I spoke to, that doesn't mean everybody in that room, but every single person I spoke to, they won their award with paid traffic. So what that means is they spent X number of dollars to generate X number of dollars, and at sometimes even at a loss because there was something that happened afterwards. So we're having the conversations like, well, yeah, I did that too, but I did mine almost exclusively through joint ventures. Any of you have dogs? Any of you ever get that dog look? It's like, huh? So I have this conversation with 4 or 5 people, and it's like, huh? How do you do that? Because what they know already is that, number one, my profit margin is probably 3 to 10 times theirs, because I don't have to pay for a lead until they buy something. All of the leads are free until they buy something. So here's the thing that I want you to understand and why I say this. 2 things. Number one, just for the love of all things good, lots of people talk about this. Not many people are in the top 0.5% of this universe doing it this way. So when I tell you that this works, Jesus, Murphy, apply it because it'll change your life and your business. Deal? And by the way, it's not mutually exclusive. You still run ads, you still target traffic, you still do retargeting, you still do all those sorts of things. We just feed the front end of the funnel with joint venture partners. Okay, and I do like this because going back to the circle, entrepreneurship is living a few years of life like most people won't, so that you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. But let's be clear about this, that only occurs if we can actually set this up in a more intelligent way where we're not struggling. That's what we're talking about. My favorite quote of all, and any of you ever feel like you're a little bit of the misfits and the rebels? Just raise your hand if you ever feel that way. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you just because I love it. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs and the square holes, the ones who see things differently. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius, because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are frankly the only ones that ever do. And from the bottom of my heart, the only reason that I have dedicated myself and my business and all of those pieces to joint venturing, JVologies, the software platforms, the live events, all of those pieces, is because we as entrepreneurs are often doing it far too alone and far too hard, and with a little inspiration and guidance, everything changes. True or not true?
True.
Yeah, 100%. So, what happens for most of us is that our greatest weakness is our strength turned up too loud. Our greatest weakness is our strength turned up too loud. So here's an example of that for entrepreneurs. How many of you have a slight independent streak? So let's just test your honesty. How many of you have a pretty substantial stubbornness streak? How many of you have ever uttered the phrase, if you want it done right, I had better just do it? Yes. Yes. Okay, so here's the thing. Most of us as entrepreneurs, our greatest weakness is the very thing that gave us enough courage to throw our hat into the ring in the first damn place. But then we start the business, we get ourselves stuck to a particular plateau, and it's like, yeah, I'll figure it out. Yeah, I'll get it done. Yeah, that's going to happen. But the truth is, what we need, and we need desperately, is a community. And that's what a great joint venture world does. Cool? All right. Different way of looking at this real quick. Any of you like free stuff? Okay. I need you to say this with me. On the count, a joint venture is a game of I'll go first. On the count of 3, I want you all to say it. 1, 2, 3. A joint venture is a game of I'll go first. What does that mean?
Help someone before they help you.
Exactly. Invest in the relationship, be relevant, be significant, do something of meaning, because good God, we do not need ever again in the whole history of our another networking thing that says, yeah, tell me what you do, and then I'll just nod my head impatiently until I can say, oh, here's my elevator speech, which nobody actually asked to hear or cares one iota about 9 times out of 10. But if it shifts from, it's like, tell me what you do, and if I have a resource, if I have an introduction, if I have a network, if I have a platform, if I have somebody, thank you. Are you serious? I told her to bring the bullwhip. Thank you. If that happens, then we've got somewhere we can go. We've got something that I can do. Because if I'm going to invest in that, then suddenly I've become relevant and I've become significant. Does that make sense to you? Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of freebies here, and then we have to do something super, super fast. Yeah, you are correct. If you want to know how to structure a joint venture in a way where you are the partner for somebody else or they are the partner for you, this is the recipe book for that process. It's a 12-page PDF. It has 40 points of when you are supporting them, 40 points when they are supporting you, and it is quite literally the recipe book for how to structure a great joint venture. Text the word JVology. By the way, sometimes people text JVology. It's just JVology. To 858-879-6116. And just to be clear about this, don't take a picture of it or those sorts of things. Do it today because we cycle these things through. I'm in New Orleans in 2 days and this will not work, okay? This is how we know we're actually at Allen's pace. So you do it today or you won't be getting it, just so we're perfectly clear about that. So 858-879-6116. Got it? Okay. By the way, just to be clear, you will be asked to opt in. When you are opted in, we're going to give you a free course called the Marginal Success Trap. It's a great little assessment and powerful process. If you want to do stuff after that, you let us know. Okay? Just that simple. So I want you to be perfectly transparent about it. That process works great. Okay. 3. I really want to get to that piece. Can we have a couple moments? Okay. All right. How many of you have kids? How many of you have kids who've ever tried to learn magic? Okay. It's fun and entertaining, yes? Okay, here's what I believe, is that most entrepreneurs are about a 7-year-old kid that just learned a magic trick. Raise your hand if you understand what I'm saying already. Yes. Most of us are so focused on our magic trick that we don't see what else happens around us. We're just looking for somebody that will watch our magic trick and then hopefully clap and then hopefully get their credit card out. Okay? It's the wrong focus because the focus is on us and our magic trick. It's too narrow. It is the reason why 2/3 of businesses are only making $100,000 or less. It's far too narrow. It's ridiculously narrow. So, here's the thing I want you to think about. You and your magic trick, whatever it is, I want you to imagine in your head that you could take 3 large steps backwards so that you have a broader field of view. And in that broader field of view, you're going to see this gray line with that dot. The gray line is your client's journey. The dot is you. Make sense? Now, most people only focus on the dot. But from the perspective of joint venture partners, we want to back up and we want to see what's happening for the client on their journey before they want and need us, and what happens for the client on their journey after we do our magic trick for them. Now, if you open up this little form here, as I go through this, I want each of you to actually make a list because I'm going to teach you a little bit about upstream and downstream. You'll see that there's 5 partners for upstream, there's 5 partners for downstream. Some of those partners might actually even be sitting at your table. But as I go through it, I want you to see if you can come up with some examples of what they are. And I'm going to go as fast as I possibly can for the purposes of time. Okay, here's what I want you to consider. Right this second, this very second, while we're sitting here having this conversation, depending on your niche, there are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people that are buying a course, that are selling a house, that are considering moving to Costa Rica, that are figuring out how to deal with a pressure tool or a pressure system that they have at work, that are trying to figure out what their life purpose is going to be. They are going through a process that, quite frankly, either causes the problem you solve or reveals the problem you solve. I'm going to say that again. They're going through a process that causes the problem you solve or reveals the problem that you solve. So, for example, any of you serve kids or parents of kids in some way, shape, or form? Yeah, a little bit. So right this second, there's a whole bunch of people finding out that they're pregnant. They have just been diagnosed with the problem that you are going to serve and support them with at some stage of the game. So I have a client in Denver. She's a sleep helper, let's call it. All of her upstream people are people who help parents with little kids. So she does presentations at Babies R Us, and the people line up. She teaches them a little bit, features some of Babies R Us products, and then they literally follow her out the store saying, "Help me sleep for crying out loud." because she got the upstream exactly right for the problem she solves. Is that making sense to you?
Yes.
So all of you have to get really clear about who, again, causes the problem I solve. Give me some examples. Who causes the problem you solve or diagnoses the problem you solve? They cause every problem. We need to be more specific. No. So you're an accountant? Lawyer? Okay. So which part of CRA? All parts. I need your card. No, but I want to be clear about this. And the reason I want specificity, the broader it is, the more difficult it is to put this down. What you want on your little sheet there where the list is not an organization, it is a person. So we could say, in my friend's example, Babies R Us, store manager Sally. Or so if it's CRA, if it was GST auditor, for example, CRA, GST auditor Bob. Or I could give you my GST auditor's name and you could just talk to her directly. That is not funny for anyone who's ever had a GST audit, just so you're perfectly clear, okay? Does this make sense to you? Okay, so you're looking for the exact right upstream partners. And what transpires when we get them, well actually I jumped ahead here. And of course, here's the thing. When you do your magic trick, you create a whole new stream of problems. Some of you are better at causing problems than solving them. Just you and I with our hands up for that. Isn't that funny? Okay, real fast. What we do when we target our upstream partners is we just go and say to them, look, you know that your clients have this problem. Babies R Us knows that there's a whole bunch of zombie parents in the first 3 years of parenthood wandering around their store lost, sometimes leaning on the counters and sleeping. They know that their upstream has that problem. True or not true? Yes. So when she goes and says, hey, would you be open to me giving some free content to serve and support your community? I will promote it to my tribe. I will promote it everywhere else. We will do the event in your actual location and we will drive more traffic. What do they say? Yep. Hell yes. Makes sense. So we just say, let us help you with the problem that you either caused or that you reveal. We do our little process with them. Oh, by the way, and in that process, when they buy something, this is all free. When they buy something, we send them. Green represents money, but it doesn't have to be money. It could be influence, it could be stages, it could be shared lists, it could be any of those sorts of things. But it has to be equitable. So far, so good? Give me an example that you have of what is a upstream partner for you. A couple of real quick examples, please. A realtor. And what is the problem that you solve? What's your magic trick? You sell window coverings, absolutely. So somebody moves in new, they are going, that's perfect. Great. Give me another example, please. Accountants and? Sales training. Perfect. Okay, so accountant has a business that's not doing as well as they want. Here's a referral out to actually drive sales up. Fantastic. What else? Please. Okay, so the resort is upstream, your AV gear is what you were delivering, and then the traffic through were the clients, yes? Okay, that works. Okay, here's the thing, and I want to just jump ahead for a moment for the purpose of time. We teach something at JVology Live and in all of our consulting. If you can get 10 good upstream partners and 10 good downstream partners, here's what it means on average for the difference. It adds a zero to your profit. If you're making $10,000 a year, you make $100,000 a year. If you're making $100,000 a year, you make $1 million a year. Now, most of the time when I say that, people go, as if. However, this isn't hyperbole and it isn't marketing. We have case studies and people, I can just give you their phone number and they can show you. It's actually on the low end at times, to be perfectly frank. So, if you can get this piece working, that makes a monumental difference. But now, here's the thing that every single one of you should be adding, which is you know you are causing some problems, and now you refer to downstream partners, and when those folks buy, they send you money. So you end up with, please hear this, a constant, never-ending stream of perfectly qualified leads because they have the problem that you solve. And then you have ongoing recurring passive income because you're helping them solve the next problem and you get paid for it. You just become a part of their marketing budget. Does that make sense to you? Why everybody doesn't build their businesses like this is absolutely batshit baffling to me. Seriously, it's boggling to me. But if you can put 5 here and 5 there, it'll change your life. Okay. I'll give you a couple of examples and we'll wrap this up. So for us, for example, we teach people how to structure their businesses like this. Most of the time they need some technology around it. We use things like Infusionsoft. So if you need that tool, we would refer you to Infusionsoft. Infusionsoft refers them to, I gotta back up because I'm in a hurry. Infusionsoft users have affiliate capacities that they don't use. 9 out of 10 users don't use the affiliate tracking piece because they don't know how to do it or they don't have anybody to do it with. Infusionsoft sends us clients. Organizations like Startup Grind. We're in the middle of launching global chapters and a bunch of the Startup Grind people. It's a great community, but they make no money at it. There's no way to monetize it. Suddenly we give them a monetization model and those folks take that community, seed this community, make great money. The Internet Marketing Party. David is one of the people that is early in the community, has thousands of people who are creating digital products but don't necessarily have eyeballs. Thinkific, we already talked about that. So this is my front end. All of these folks send me clients day in, day out, all the time. Does that make sense to you? Would that be attractive to anyone? Just to have a team of people that just keep sending you clients? Yes, it's good. And at the end, in terms of helping people build larger communities, I refer things like the Marketers Cruise, which I just got off of. A woman who does bots on Facebook, her name's RJ. Jane Powers, one of the greatest speaker trainers in the entire universe. And this is an example, I put it there, Thinkific as well, because sometimes you'll find that partners are both upstream and downstream for slightly different offers. Does that make sense to you? Okay, so here's my task to you. The task is super, super simple. Before the day is done, on your sheet of paper, you should have 5 upstream and you should have 5 downstream, not just organizations, but people that you can go and begin to have this conversation with. Now, for how many of you is like, damn it, that'd be a little bit tough? Yeah, a little bit, I understand. It's a little bit tough for virtually everyone at the beginning of this process. However, I could make it a whole lot easier for you if you'd like. Would anyone like that to be a hell of a lot easier? No, I mean, you're still you're the Saskatchewan farm kids like me. No, give me the hard route. I just want the hard route. So I have an invitation for you that I'm going to say very, very quickly, which is this. We do events where there are 100 people in the room, all of whom are trained to do JV invitations, all of whom understand the context of upstream and downstream. So we could sit together and we could say, you know what? We had that brief conversation. You could be an ideal downstream for me for a bunch of my digital marketers that are actually starting to wake up and become conscious and don't know what to do. I can refer a bunch of the people to you who think that consciousness is something called mindset. You should think positive. It's like, good try. So I could send a ton of those folks. And he would understand that, that's what downstream means, and I could do it. So our next event is in San Diego, February 21st to 23rd. 100 people from all over the world. Australia, Germany, United States, Canada, all over, all of whom want to do deals with you, upstream or downstream. Now, if you want to attend that, I would give it to you for free, as simply an application of what? A joint venture is a game of? I'll go first. So if you want to do that, you can come talk to me. Now, we also have a whole comprehensive offering that timing-wise we don't have time to dive into right this very second. But here's what I would say to you. If you're interested in that event, I will just hook you up for free. If you want the support, the training, and the community to have an ongoing relationship with a bunch of people who are in this spot, we can do that for literally as little as $997 for an entire year, $97 a month if you want to just try the thing out, and it would get you global, what we call Global Lounge, 2 courses or 2 live events a month, an entire digital program that teaches you beginning to end. It gets you the live event, and I'm missing something in there. Oh, yes, here's a good one. I will even joint venture with you. I'll feature you on one of my Facebook Lives. If the match is correct, I will put you in one of my classrooms in terms of a sponsor. I will do everything in my power to feed traffic to you as long as we are aligned and we have the same customers. Make sense? Okay. I know that's a fire hose. I totally understand. But here's the thing that I want you to hold on to that is most important. This form here. If you want to attend that event, just on the back, just fill out that you want to attend the JVology Live, San Diego, February 21st to 23rd. If you want additional support, just come talk to me. I'm going to be here absolutely all day and on the breaks, and we can figure out how that would work for you. And if you're sitting there going, could a JV work for me? The answer is yes. We can figure out what that is, even if it's not abundantly clear to you right now. Understood? The next JVology Live in Calgary is in September. Yeah, in September. And just to be clear about this, we don't do much work in Calgary. So our last 3 events were London, Phoenix, Orlando. So the truth of the matter is, San Diego is a nice place to go in the middle of winter. And it makes no sense whatsoever. If this lands with you, it makes no sense to wait till September. You will pay for that trip 10, 20, 30 times over. Actually, I'll show you if I go really fast. By the way, this woman was doing $250,000 a year. First year using JVs, $1 million. Jane, she landed around 400. First year using JVs, landed about 2.2. And then this is the kid I wanted to show you real quick. Matthew. So he was at the event that you guys were at, and in 30 days did $28,000 at 21 years old. He's 21, and his annual sales this year will land about $240,000. Almost half of that through JVs. So just think differently about it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Best part of that kid is he's coachable.
It's absolutely true.
That's why he's successful. Because he's able to do.
Yeah, it's true. He was on every prep call. He was on all those pieces, and he showed up ready to give, and he knocked it out of the park. So on that note, my friends, you could wait till September. That's cool. Or you could juggle your life, come to San Diego, meet 100 people from all over the world that, please hear this, and this is the distinction, want to support you and your business. It's different than going to any other event. You will do a joint venture invitation with every single person in that room. It's not like, I might do a joint venture invitation. It's like, no, it's structured so that every single one of you'll leave with deals. Simple and clean and easy? Yes? Okay, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the time, effort, and energy. I truly appreciate it. And I would love to support you in any way we can. There you go. And I'll get this off for you.
So yeah, we're going to take a quick
came-
5-minute break while I get things switched over. I'll switch over, get my headset back over here.
Here it is.
And,